Today on Made in Virginia, we're going behind and above the scenes to the Port of Virginia to learn just what it takes to control the port's lineup of ship-to-shore cranes. And it's no small task to import and export over 50 million tons of products annually. It requires safety, precision, and speed to service the East Coast's deepest and most modern port. Driven and powered by state-of-the-art engineering, the port crane control systems developed by the TMEIC Corporation in Roanoke, Virginia, are at the very heart of what makes the Port of Virginia one of the nation's most desirable cargo destinations. It's material handling and port crane automation at its finest, and it's all made in Virginia. Made in Virginia is brought to you by At Union Bank and Trust, we salute the dreamers, the thinkers, the doers, the believers, the builders, and the makers. Thanks to your vision, hard work, and innovation, you make Virginia shine. Union Bank and Trust, a partner of Virginia business and a proud supporter of Made in Virginia and Virginia Public Broadcasting. The import and export journey to and from the Port of Virginia generates nearly $1.5 billion in state and local taxes annually. The designers and engineers at TMEIC, a Roanoke, Virginia-based corporation, have developed and deployed control systems that assure the Port of Virginia's wharfs and cranes operate in a safe, efficient, and speedy manner.
Well, I love our port. We now have the deepest port on the East Coast with a 50-foot depth. Recently, I was able to welcome Costco Development, the largest ship to ever go through the Panama Canal. Let me tell you, when it went through the canal, it had about this much on each side. It is 4 football fields long, about 17 TEUs wide. When it went through, there was only one port it could come to. It came to our port in Virginia. And when that ship came in, I tell you, it was something. And with all the goods and cargo that was on it, and then guess what? We loaded that up with Virginia products to then take out.
We're moving trade 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We have 6 facilities within the port portfolio, 4 deep water facilities, 2 inland facilities, 1 in Richmond and 1 up in Front Royal. So we're constantly moving imports to the United States markets. A lot of our activity moves inland by rail, and we're moving exports, a lot of agricultural product. Over $10 billion of agricultural product from Virginia was exported across this port last year. So we really are facilitating commerce, we're facilitating trade, we're creating economic opportunity for Virginia.
I think anybody today recognizes that you have to be part of the global economy. Virginia's really blessed in that we have seaports and both airports as well that are gateways to global commerce. Many states don't have one of these assets, and we have both. With the ports of Virginia, we are reminded every day of products that are coming in and products that are going out. These are products made in Virginia. We're proud of that, and we see the job creation, the additional income to Virginia that arises out of doing business with other countries.
TMEIC combines its world-leading system engineering, network technology, and intelligent sensor systems with its other core technologies to provide automated control systems to the Port of Virginia.
We supplied the control system and the drives and the engineering expertise to make the cranes do what they're going to do. So we have PLC control, which uses programming languages to run the cranes. We also supplied the drives. We have a few sitting here next to me. These are drive simulators. Those are actually what make the motors run. As the crane moves, the drives give those commands. And we also supplied the engineering design for some of the networking and for the control of the crane interfacing with the outside world, so through database connections and other computers that the customer already has. So
the business is an exciting business. It's big equipment doing great processes that improve commerce, improve the global economy. You know, we work around the world on doing these port projects. We've done port projects in China, you know, Australia, Europe. It's nice to have a project at home and seeing that our technology is benefiting, you know, the state of Virginia and moving more commerce through the state of Virginia such that the overall economy of Virginia can grow.
I mean, TMEIC is what drives our port. I mean, the automated port, the automated cranes that we have on today, we can put the goods on, we can take them off faster than I believe any port in the United States of America. You are in a one-day drive of basically 65% of the population of the United States of America from our port that we have down in Hampton Roads. Nowhere else can you get to that percentage of the population, just our port. But having TMEIC and their technology with the cranes, moving it quicker than any other port in America, that just gives us a strategic advantage because, you know, many of the goods are moved. They got to get there very quickly. They're not making money until people have their product, and we can do it faster than anyone else. So in essence, what I tell people around the globe when I travel, you want to make money in America with your goods? You better bring it to the Port of Virginia because it's the only place you can move those goods into the market and get it out to the breadbasket of America. Nobody can do it faster than we can our Port of Virginia.
We couldn't move anything if it wasn't for the control systems that we have from TMEIC. They're part of our evolution as a port. We're moving to semi-automation, trying to move things quicker, safer, cleaner. And if we didn't have these control systems or this inside the equipment knowledge, we wouldn't be able to function. So we're relying on it. And part of the value to us when we awarded the contract was a Virginia company that has international exposure is going to be working right here at home. So we are going to be a home test base for TMEIC for a long time because the order that we placed on November 17th of last year was for 86 rail-mounted gantry cranes. Every one of them has TMEIC inside. So just think of it that way. Every one of them is going to be blended, married, and delivered here, and they won't work until TMEIC's work is done.
For the Virginia Port project, we're supplying the electrical equipment for the ship-to-shore cranes, the large 50-meter cranes that take the containers off the ship and put them on the pier. And then we're doing the automatic stacking cranes, which take the containers from the pier, put them in a stacking area like a yard, to store them until the truck driver arrives with his truck to pick up those containers and take it out to the final customer. And then we're also doing the rail cranes, the large RMG cranes, which span the rail tracks, so we can take those containers that are coming off the ship and put them on top of the train, so they can be then taken to the next city and offloaded there to be distributed to the final customer. But the electrical equipment and computer system you would see on those cranes is similar to like a large robot, even though it doesn't have arms really to speak of, but the computer systems and the electrical equipment are moving the arms and legs to get the container off the ship onto the pier, and then the automatic stacking cranes are moving at a much higher speed to move them into the stacks, to get them away from the ship so the ship can then pull away.
We did elementary drawings, so mechanical drawings that help us interface with Coney cranes. The Coney cranes are the mechanical drawings for the cranes, and we took those mechanical drawings and we applied our expertise and gave them electrical drawings for the I/O and for the interface to the PLC. We use those to develop our software. So we are actually delivering a software package. That's the main meat of our product, and that the crane control is what we sell for that. And we also have sensor packages. We have our MaxU system and our Crane Director system. Those are our sensor packages and software packages that allow the crane to actually be autonomous, to do automatic moves by itself.
The process of developing the world's finest crane control systems, like any other, begins with solving a problem. The engineers at TMEIC have been solving problems for over 40 years, right here in Roanoke, Virginia. In this case, the problem was how do we safely and efficiently move more cargo on and off more and bigger ships and onto trucks and trains, and do so with a highly user-friendly, reliable system that can repeat the operation from one container to another each and every day.
The port themselves have their own business system running their port, and they're the ones sitting there because they know when the truck driver's coming. They know where to put that container. If it's a special container, like a refrigerated container, they have to put it in a certain location. If it's a hazardous container, they put it in another location. So the port at their level have a business system, computer system that they're using to track the containers. They send the instructions down to us of which containers need to be moved in and moved out. So it's sort of like they're the supervisor, and we're the worker. And we make those cranes do the work that the supervisor's telling us to get done in a certain amount of time.
Before the ship enters the port, a complete list of all of its cargo is delivered to the port authorities. This list, or manifest, then begins the automated process by prioritizing the order of what will get transported to its assigned section of the port and when it has to get there. TMEIC's automated system then goes to work, calculating and organizing the incoming load for a safe and efficient ship-to-shore movement of the cargo.
It's like a Rubik's Cube. You have to know where everything is, but then you also plan ahead. So you know, as the example you use, you've got this stack of, say, 5 high, and the 4th one down is a container I want. Well, I know that I have to move that container at some time in the future. So while I'm moving containers around, I can move the containers on top of that to different locations, say during a down period, so that I can get access to that particular container when I need to, or even move it to a different location. So now the move from it to the truck, let's say it's going out, is a much shorter move, much quicker move, and more efficient.
When the ship arrives, the automated ship-to-shore cranes, standing 50 meters high, move in and begin unloading. With great care and precision, the cranes place and stack the cargo right where it needs to go, from the unloading of the ships all the way through the process when the cargo is placed on trucks or railroad cars. Operators in the command and control room use TMEIC's automated crane systems and their MaxView smart landing system to monitor the operation and confirm the successful completion of the job.
Yeah, the technology today, in the past the crane was a big mechanical robot, but it was all manually controlled by the operator. He was using his eyes to move the equipment into location and then adjusting levers to make those containers lift up and move back to the pier. Now we're introducing vision systems, laser systems to be the eyes for that crane now, and then we're using other sensors for the positioning of the spreader to pick the container up and put it into its right location. So the operators are really now there more to supervise, to make sure the crane's operating safely, and if there's any abnormal activities outside the crane, that the operator can jump in and take control of the crane.
The automation does give you that efficiency. You're able to do moves all day long, day or night, whether it's light or dark, and that automation just lets them keep running the port at all times. You don't have to worry about somebody getting sick or somebody not being on the crane or not knowing how to run the operators. The crane runs by itself. So without that, it's what we had in the past, which again is a manual crane.
The efficiency, safety, many of those types of things are very important. What we get measured upon in terms of our success is placement of the containers on top of each other. How accurately are they stacked so that they don't fall over? As an example, that is a problem in ports, about these stacks falling over. So we have to make sure we stack them so that they won't fall over. So there's a very tight tolerance in that stacking. But we also get measured on the number of moves. How many containers can you move over a period of time? So again, that means we have to very accurately move and know where to move those containers around the port. In addition to that, there are people everywhere. So safety is very, very important. So we have to have systems that are able to detect when people are around and stop the operation, so that we're not taking these containers over top of, say, a truck or even an individual. So safety is an extremely important aspect to this.
One of the simplest challenges is the fact that we have this machine that is 80 feet tall. We're trying to land this 40-foot container, and as you move down the rails, it's not a completely rigid machine. It's moving around and it's tilting back and forth, the machine itself. And so we have to compensate for that in our controls and in our measurements. We have to be within 50 millimeters. It's essentially 2 inches. That's for pickup and drop-off. So those containers are 40 feet wide. So we have to be accurate within 2 inches on a 40-foot container. And that's landing on the ground, landing on other containers, and in some places around the world, that's also landing on trucks, things like that. So that accuracy is pretty tough to get, but with our sensor system in place, we have that very consistent.
After the containers have been stacked, TMEIC's automated systems, now in coordination with the trucks and rail cars that haul the cargo to market, are loaded. These automated rail cranes move the cargo to truck and train with the same speed and precision as they did when unloading, placing, and stacking. Simultaneously, the ship that was just unloaded is being loaded with goods from Virginia to be shipped all around the world. Because of the demand internationally for TMEIC's products, the company could be headquartered anywhere in the world, and one would think an offshore location would make most sense. But when TMEIC's leadership added up all the factors, the logical choice was to remain in Virginia, where they have access to world-class engineers and a quality of life that is hard to beat.
This particular operation started with a GE operation that's been at the Valley for a very long period of time. And certainly all those years ago when GE made the decision to come here, there were various reasons for that. But clearly, we didn't have to stay. We really did not have to stay here in the Valley. But being quite honest with you, I'm not originally from the Valley, and many of the people in this business are not originally from the Valley. But you couldn't pay me to move someplace else.
What attracted TMEIC to stay in this region when they could have been anywhere is a combination of the quality of the workforce, the quality of the community, high educational opportunities and offerings, the quality of life in a broader sense. TMEIC is really an integral part of our community. They represent a global picture with deep roots here in the Valley. And so what they make and the people they attract and the products they create then go far and wide. And so having them as a part of the business mix is essential really to part of our success in the Roanoke Valley.
TMEIC has been great for the Roanoke Valley region. They've been a great company, all the engineer, high-paying company. They have about 300 plus employees down there. Really spectacular. But by them now working with us to make our port the best in the globe, and that's done with the help of a Virginia company who have been providing the drives to run the cranes more efficiently and faster. That's a win-win for the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I assume that other ports are going to be looking, well, how does Virginia do it? They're going to have to hire TMEIC. They're going to great Virginia company, great Roanoke City company, and that's if you want to get the fastest cranes moving, the most efficient, you're going to have to hire TMEIC to bring those drives to you.
Virginia is blessed to have a very diverse economy. We're not like many states that are dominant, perhaps in chemicals or petroleum. And so we have many companies that are exporting their products around the world. Anything from fiber optic cable, to chemicals, to surgical products, to industrial drives. There's about 320,000 jobs in the Commonwealth because of international trade. And to put that into perspective, whether you talk about billions of dollars or jobs that are created, Virginia, we're very fortunate that Virginia is a tourist state, is a tourist destination. We're proud of that. But international trade in Virginia is about 3 times the size of tourism. And so we have these gateways, and it makes it very cost-effective for Virginia companies to sell their products and move them through our infrastructure system.
The Port of Virginia is the 3rd busiest port on the East Coast of the United States. New York and New Jersey's first, Georgia is second, and we're third. So we become part of a network, and all of those ports get called by the shipping lines. Just on April 1st, the shipping lines created new alliances. The Port of Virginia was very successful calling first in and last out calls with all the new carrier networks. So we have 7 weekly services from Asia to the US calling this port, either first in or last out. So that becomes really important when you're moving the product. First in, get the imports to the consumer faster. Last out, makes our economic opportunity for our export products to get overseas markets faster without delay.
My next goal would be to get it to a 55-foot depth. That, of course, would be the deepest in the country. We're working with the Army Corps of Engineers. I'm optimistic that would be the next step. But today, those post-Panamax ships, when they come to the East Coast of the United States, they have very few choices. And clearly, their best choice is the Port of Virginia. And that, I would say, not only because of the 50-foot depth, and let's be honest, we have the largest naval base in the world there. All the aircraft carriers, the destroyers, the nuclear subs. There's a lot of great activity. We need that deep port. But what I'm very proud of is the efficiencies that are now on the port with TMEIC and, as I say, with our cranes to be able to move those containers very quickly, and then to be able to offload and then to get it out to the commerce of America. Nobody can do that. We have CSX, we have Norfolk Southern. I've expanded 64. I put new interchanges at 564 so that we can get our goods immediately moved out. So the good news is the port's set. We are on a trajectory now to be the biggest in the globe. I won't take second to anybody. We are going to demolish those other worthless ports. Everything in the future of this country has got to go through the Port of Virginia.
The mandate for the Port of Virginia is to be an economic catalyst for all Virginia companies, for all Virginia communities, to grow the economies, to create jobs. So we had the support of the governor, the legislature, and the administration when we undertook what is a historic effort to put $700 million into action to increase the port by 40% in 3 years. This wouldn't be done without the political will and the support we have from the legislature and the governor. So we're trying to deliver on that promise, diversify this economy, grow this economy, create jobs for Virginians, and make Virginia the place to do business.
Manufacturing is alive in Virginia. There's about 250,000 jobs directly tied to manufacturing, about 4,500 manufacturers in Virginia across a wide range of sectors and products that are made. As I said, they pay higher wages than the average non-manufacturing wage. We need to inform the next generation that making a product is a good way to make a living, and you can sell that product anywhere in the United States or around the world. And that's going to provide great wages and a living for those people involved in the manufacturing sector. You know, manufacturing is high-tech nowadays. Any part, any sector, any product, there's a lot of technology that goes into manufactured products. So we need bright young people to gravitate and go into the manufacturing sector.
Well, right now we're under projects, $700 million, 1 million container capacity. We're going to increase the capacity of this port by 40% in less than 3 years. So that's a big shot. Now that message is also going around the world saying Virginia is in the business forever. We are in this to win it as a port, to be a safe harbor on the East Coast and be one of the premier ports on the East Coast. So the Virginia message is getting all over the world because all the carriers are from every continent. You know, the shippers are from every continent. So they know Virginia becomes a safe harbor. We become that global gateway for trade, both imports and export. So we're selling Virginia every day. That's what we do.
TMEIC, based in Roanoke, with its wide array of state-of-the-art products, is at the heart of the Virginia port's success, continuing to lead the way and innovate with its crane automation and control systems, all made in Virginia. The weight of measure or mass that we call a ton has its roots in measuring the displacement of salt water caused by the weight of cargo in ships. This measurement is called an imperial ton or displacement ton. The actual origin of the common word ton we use in the U.S. today comes from A. Ancient Greek, meaning tuna fish, B. Roman, meaning the weight of 10 fully armed centurions, or C. English, meaning the weight of 35 cubic feet of seawater. The answer when we return. Made in Virginia is brought to you by At Union Bank and Trust, we salute the dreamers, the thinkers, the doers, the believers, the builders, and the makers. Thanks to your vision, hard work, and innovation, you make Virginia shine. Union Bank and Trust, a partner of Virginia business and a proud supporter of Made in Virginia and Virginia Public Broadcasting. Although the word ton has many origins for its usage as a unit of measure, the actual origin of the word is A. Tunos, Greek for tuna fish. By the way, a ton is used to describe the common U.S. measure for mass or weight is 2,000 pounds. Next time on Made in Virginia, we're going to toast to perfection. It's single malt whiskey, and it's the winner of the world's best American single malt. Learn the secrets of fine whiskey making right here, next time on Made in Virginia. If you would like to learn more about today's episode or suggest a Virginia manufacturer for the program, you may visit us at madeinvirginia.tv and at wvpt.net.